Hello everybody. So today my phone's sitting a little bit funny, so it's just kind of hard to look at the phone right. But anyway, I haven't gotten to the Bible study on Halloween, and I figure, well, a lot of people have done it, and really there's probably no convincing anyone not to celebrate it anyway. But I thought, well, why not have a little chat about it? So I'm going to talk to you about some things. And one thing I was thinking about is, with all that's going on, with all that's going on in the world, in all of our countries. So if you're watching me, you happen to be watching me outside of the country where I am. I'm in the United States of America, but you could be somewhere else. We're all facing the same things anyway. So there's the verse that mentions how we want God to heal our land. And thing is that everything that's going on now has been in the works since way before our time, ever since our country started, ever since before then. It's all been in the works since the very beginning. It's been happening more and more and more. And sometimes things got slightly back more on track, but they still continued. And Halloween is a thing that it's one of the things that we really do need to get out of the church meaning all believers, every single believer who believes in the Messiah and who believes in God. And a lot of people are like, oh, that's not true, it's just fun. So I know that a lot of you just want to have fun. But the thing is that there's a lot of verses. I got a lot of verses, but I don't have time to read them right now, so I will be doing that, hopefully. But like I said, even if I do sit and read through them all, what convincing is it going to do? So I think I'll do a chat on it first. And one thing is all the verses where God tells us to, come out of her, my people, to be a people set apart, to be different than other people. What other keywords that I was thinking? The other word, I don't know. But anyway, to be a people set apart, that's what he calls us to do. He wants us to be different. He wants us to be set apart from the world. He says that we're supposed to be in the world, not of the world. And a lot of people think that they're different and they're set apart if they believe in the Messiah, and that's what sets them apart. But that's not just the only thing that sets us apart. Jesus tells us that he would rather us be hot or cold than lukewarm. He doesn't want us being mixed, having some of him and some of the world, where he's the coffee and the worldly traditions is the milk and sugar, which makes it lukewarm. He wants it either hot or he wants it cold. He wants it chilled. He wants, either you want your coffee plain or, let's say, plain or all doused up. I don't know. But anyway, the way I think of it is mixing things into your coffee. He wants your coffee black is really how he wants it, And that doesn't mean how you actually drink your coffee. He just doesn't want you mixing the worldly traditions into your faith. Because they can appear to be sweet and wonderful and tasty and good, but they're really not, So then you're like, well, I do Halloween differently, right? I don't do it like everybody else. My children don't wear scary costumes. They don't wear gross looking costumes. And, we're different in that way. So that used to be me. I'd be like, oh, well, we wear sweet and cute costumes. We don't do any of the gross stuff. We don't do any of the evil looking things. Some people do the evil looking things and they still think that they're Christians. But I talked about that in my last video. So the thing is the whole set apart thing. So you think that you're being set apart because you don't, dress like Death Warmed Over, and you don't let your children dress like that, but you let them wear cute costumes and have fun dressing up. But the thing is that when you go out, if you go out tomorrow night, or if you're even going out like in the daytime now, people have things set up already outside in their yards. as you meander along, which I suggest maybe you do before tomorrow night, but go and take a long walk in your neighborhoods or in the neighborhood where you normally go trick-or-treating. Go in those neighborhoods, even maybe by yourself for a walk if you can, which likely you cannot. If you're a mother, a lot of moms, they just don't have time doing that. A lot of fathers don't. If you do have time to do it, do it. But anyway, whether you do it on your own, walking out about, driving to or fro, or tomorrow night, think about what you're seeing and what you're walking amongst, because we're supposed to be set apart, a people set apart, people different. And there's one yard that I went past the other day, and no, driving, not walking, can't help but drive past it. So we drove past it a couple times recently. Anyway, and they have a whole bunch of like mannequins that like nasty looking mannequins, look like death, evil, nasty looking, gross things. And thing is, if you take your children to go trick-or-treating at houses where they have things that look like death, they have skeletons and they have witches, and they're not even how most people who consider themselves witches dress, but there are stories behind how the witch hat came about and the broom and the flying on the broom came about. You guys can do your own research on that. I ran into something about it. I put it on my regular page. How the story came about, I don't remember exactly. It had to do with during the times of the Salem witch trials, and I don't know, some sort of belief, something that it came about. Anyway, you see that, you see all sorts of creepy looking things, and scary looking pumpkins and scary looking everything. And there you are walking amongst all that stuff. Would Jesus walk amongst all that with you? Would he have fun walking through all that stuff and looking at it all? Is that considered holy? Because he said, be holy as I am holy. So is that holy, all that stuff holy? Because he said to be holy as I am holy, to be a people set apart, and you're not really being set apart if you're walking amongst all that stuff. And then you say, oh, well, we don't go trick-or-treating, we go do the church thing. But my kids do dress up in cute costumes. Where do you get the cute costumes? Were you walking amongst where they sell nasty, disgusting costumes to get to your cute costumes? Were you supporting companies that make both? Because that's another thing right now with things going on. People talk about not buying from this company, not buying from that company, not buying certain brands anymore because of the things that these brands are coming out and standing for. Don't go woke, go broke. But yet, you'll buy cute costumes made by the same people who sell nasty, disgusting, deathly, gross looking costumes. So you're still supporting that. And you may be going amongst non-believers who are in there looking for the costumes too. So you're not being set apart if there you are right amongst them buying from costumes just like they're right there buying costumes. You're not being set apart. You're putting yourself right there in the mix of things. Those are a couple of thoughts that I had. You're supporting things that you say that you're really not in favor of. You're supporting the companies that make those things because yours are cute. So those are some things to think about too. And now, as far as the nasty looking costumes and every other things, there are verses. Let's see. I have a ton. I'm not gonna read through them all, so I'm just gonna suggest some things. We ask God to lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. But if we ask God to keep us from temptation and to deliver us from evil, but then there you are trick-or-treating amongst people dressed as death. And that's another thing. When I used to do the trick-or-treating thing, started to realize more and more, your children are scared from some of the costumes of the big kids, and even some of the little kids dressed so disgustingly that they, dressed like people who have been killed and murdered or dressed like murderers or dressed as evil spirits or evil beings, and your children are trying to have fun and they're dressed cute and they're being frightened by people that you're trick-or-treating amongst. So like I said, you're not being separate because you're right there in the thick of it. That's not being separate. So, and we see deliver us from evil, but there you are walking amongst not necessarily people who are evil, but they're dressed as evil, and you're walking amongst all these setups that people have that are setups of evil things. And so that's another thing. We ask God not to lead us not into temptation, to deliver us from evil, but you're walking right amongst things that are representations of evil. Even if it's supposed to just be fun, not really be evil, it still looks like evil. God says that you're supposed to glorify God with your body, so that's another thing. Are you glorifying God with the costumes? Is that a way of glorifying God? That's a question you have to ask yourself. God mentioned women being dressed in fine linens. That was just a thought, women are supposed to be dressed in fine linens. And then there was a thing that the cross-dressing for Halloween then. Is that, God says that women are supposed to be dressed in fine linens. There's verses about that. And God also says that men are supposed to dress as men and women as women. Well, but then for Halloween, people who believe that to be true do it for Halloween. Let's see. Yeah, and so God mentions the things that are of the world, and we are not of the world. He says, you are not of the world. You're in it, but you're not of it. So I mentioned that already. And coming out of her, my people, but there you are right amongst them all anyway. Dressing inappropriately. The many verses about dressing as prostitutes and such. Men will dress that way and women will dress that way, but they say that they believe in God, they believe in Messiah, and they're just having fun. But yet God says not to dress like that. So they're like, well, I don't always dress like that just for Halloween because it's fun. Well, it's still doing something that we're not supposed to do. And anyway, so there's tons of verses like that, But the thing is, I think that we want our land to be healed, but yet we want to do things that we're really not. And then people say, oh, well, if, they do the church thing and they dress up for church, but like I said, you're still buying costumes that are made by companies that make the evil costumes. You're still going to the store, walking amongst all the evil looking costumes to get your cute costumes. You're still walking amongst the non-believers to buy your costumes right along with them. You're not being set apart. And then, the whole, well, we want to get people into church, and that's a way to get people into church by being like them, by doing the things that they do. That's not being separate. And God says we're supposed to be a light on the hill. I don't know. Maybe you consider that still being a light on the hill. You can have fun without the costumes at all, without putting money into that, if that's what you're going to insist on, being a good idea. But, I just don't think that we should be putting our money into these companies that support things that are not holy. So, a lot of people say they don't buy Starbucks anymore. AT&T is out. Aunt Jemima's gone. Cocoa Wheats won't buy. Land O'Lakes we won't buy. But, a lot of people, they're abstaining from those things. They're abstaining from Disney. Not all Christians consider abstaining from Disney, but some do. I don't know what other ones, but there's a lot. But yet you'll buy from the same companies that make the evil, nasty looking costumes. So you're not, you'll abstain from some things that you think are bad, but then other things you think they're just fine, and they're really not. You're still supporting the selling of the evil costumes, but then you say you won't dress your children in them because they're wrong. We have to think about those things, walking amongst, like I said, walking amongst the people dressed as evil and nasty to go do the trick-or-treating. But like I said, if you're going to do it in church, okay, but there's still the walking amongst in the store to go buy those things. It should just be something completely set apart. However, I mean, and if you're trying to avoid doing evil things by getting together, but still, in a sense, you're still celebrating Halloween. You're not really separating yourself from what the world is doing. I think we should separate ourselves completely. And then you think, well, a lot of the children feel like they're missing out. Well, the children who go to public school do, and probably all children who go to any school, yeah, likely they're going to feel like they're missing out because they know that everybody else is doing it. But if you keep them, if you never get involved in those things, then they really don't miss it as much as you think they will. You just keep them busy doing their regular thing. It might be hard for them, but whoever said being a Christian is easy? And why are we going to teach the children that being a Christian is supposed to be easy? And that's sort of like what we're doing by saying, oh, well, let's just give them something fun too, so that they won't miss out on what all the non-believers are doing. Being a Christian isn't easy, and you get made fun of for being too preachy, or too holy, or too holier than thou, and all that stuff. But anyway, those are just some of my thoughts, and I don't know, maybe I'll have to try again on this video, give myself a listen. But those are just some things, though, just basic little things to consider. We want God to heal our land, but then we won't give up doing things. We won't be separate from the world. We won't separate ourselves from them, but yet we want God to heal ourselves from things that the world does. So anyway, we just need to get back to the basics and realize that being a Christian isn't easy. It's not an easy walk. And it's not going to be easy for our children either. Might as well get used to it when they're little, because it's not going to get any easier as they get older. So, as long as you have them with you, you can start teaching them how it is, how to be strong in difficult times, and be strong in not being like everybody else. Because if we want to make it easy for them and not being like everybody else when they're little, it's going to be even harder for them to not be like everybody else when they're older. So, those are just some of my thoughts. Another thing with the pumpkin, a lot of you can look up the stuff about the pumpkin. But, there you are again, putting the sign out saying, hey, I'm one of them. Because you're doing what everybody else is doing, you don't look any different if you're dressing like everybody else. So the whole having a pumpkin thing out saying, oh, well, I'm just putting happy faces on mine. But everybody else is having a pumpkin, so therefore you're being like everybody else. You're not being set apart just because you have a cute face on your pumpkin, because a lot of non-believers just do the cute face too, and they also don't like the bad-looking pumpkin faces. So, and then there's the putting the candle in it. A candle normally signifies prayer. They're normally a way of sacrifice or prayer to God. The Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church especially, they put their candles up. They light a candle for prayers. People in other religions do the same. And so the candle in the pumpkin isn't just to light up the pumpkin's face. It's it's more like a tool of prayer. Not always, of course, we all use candles to light a room. So, but there is that thought that there is that aspect to it, because it used to be a religious thing, and for a lot of people, the Wiccans, this is a religious holiday for them. So, for them, that is a religious thing to do. I don't know how far religious. I don't know all that stuff. But I do know a lot of times candles symbolize prayer and holiness. And there are reasons for doing it, for light against dark. The Wiccans, they believe that they're holy and not evil. So there's that aspect. We got to think about being set apart, being different. You're not being different if you're doing everything that unbelievers are doing. God also says to not not have fellowship. You can know non-believers, but we're not supposed to be unequally yoked with them. He says, what fellowship has light with darkness? And you're having fellowship with them by doing all the things they're doing and joining in the things that they're doing, joining in this night. They're all celebrating this night. You're joining in, celebrating in the night, even though you're doing it differently. You're still joining in. So, just depends on where you're going. I mean, if you're going to church, but you're still celebrating it on the night that they're all celebrating, you are trying to avoid temptation by doing it differently. But like I said, you're still joining in the night. You're still joining in it, just trying to be different than them by celebrating on their night in a different way. It's a religious night for Wiccans and Satanists, pagans. So I don't know. Those are just things that I really do think that as each one of these years goes by that you consider. Because we want God to heal this land, but yet we want to hang on to what the world does. We still want to be part of them. We still want to be in it with them and do the things that they're doing. Or we still feel like we're missing out on something, because it's their celebration. And we feel like we should be celebrating too and having fun too because they're having fun. But this is their thing, not our thing. And as far as harvest, God's harvest tradition is in September. It comes and goes. Sukkot. It's Sukkot, Feast of Tabernacles. It's already come and gone. God did give us that. There's also Thanksgiving. I don't really think that there's anything necessarily wrong with Thanksgiving. It's basically the same thing, though, as Feast of Tabernacles. It's slightly different, of course, because it has to do with, history and everything, since then, as we all know, pioneers and all that. But that's harvest, not Halloween. So, anyway, we could talk in circles, and I'm not going to necessarily convince you of anything, but I really do think that people need to really think and consider it again and again until we leave and God comes for us. We need to continue to grow in our faith, and continue to grow in our faith means to continue to be less and less afraid to be different and set apart, to not be partaking in things that everybody else does just because they are doing it too. You're not missing out because it's not a holy holiday. It's not a biblical tradition. It's not a biblical holiday. It is a religious tradition. It is a religious holiday. Whether or not you believe you're doing it religiously, you're not, but it's still a religious holiday night. Halloween is a religious holiday. So, even if you're celebrating it differently, you're still celebrating on a night, on that night. And it is a religious holiday night. So, anyway, those are my thoughts. So, like I said, don't know that I'll ever convince anybody to not. And then they're like, people are like, oh, well, what does it matter to you? Let everybody else have fun. But it does matter, because we're supposed to care about the church and where other believers are going, what other believers are doing, because it affects us all. Because God is looking down and He is watching, and He knows. And He is patient. He was patient with the Israelites too. He knew what they were doing. They were down there with that bull for a certain amount of time before He even did anything about it, And He's become even more patient since Jesus came and died on the cross. It doesn't mean that we have permission to, do things that we want to do. It just means that He's patient and waiting for us to learn on our own, for us to come to realize things on our own. He's a lot more patient than He was then, I suppose, because of Jesus dying on the cross for us, and He wants people to come to Him now, I don't know, but I really think that we need to try to be different. We need to try to be set apart. We want God to heal our land, and we need to play a part in the healing. We need to give up things that are not of God, period. It's not a holiday from the Bible at all. It's not based on the Bible at all. Some people think it is. The Catholics kind of believe it is. That's a whole nother that's a whole nother thing. But if the Catholics believe it is, it should stay in church at least. It shouldn't have anything to do with masks and stuff. But then there's the whole mask thing, and Catholicism has mixed so much tradition from the pagan. There is paganism. So people say, "I don't say pagan because people are confused." No, because there are people now that call themselves pagans, and it's a mix of pagan traditions. The Catholicism has adopted all of that, and now a lot of people talk about, don't culturally appropriate. In a way, it's a form of cultural appropriation, but they did it, because they had good intentions. But just because it's made with good intentions doesn't mean it's good. We need to separate ourselves, and so that God can heal our land. It starts with us. We need to give up things that we shouldn't be doing. And anyway, so I'll try to get to my Bible verses. Hopefully tomorrow, hopefully soon. I got a ton of them, but like I said, I really think that the chat, reading the Bible verses isn't going to change anybody's mind tonight or tomorrow anyway. So we'll do our Bible study probably tomorrow, and I'll try to get it up. Maybe I'll try to do it in the morning if I can. Anyway, take these thoughts and do what you will with them. I don't know if you'll share the video because it's very rambly, but share the thoughts anyway. And go to my page, maybe share some of the Bible verses or do it in your own way. And thank you for listening. Bye-bye.